Hello? Okay. Hang on. I'm just clearing some stuff off my screen here. Okay. Wait. Do I need to? Okay, no, that's a mute. That's okay. Sorry, I am not used to doing the live thing on YouTube. But anyway, I'm here to basically do my own little vlog here. I went to an early screening of Coyote versus Acme yesterday, and it's not getting its wide release until the 28th. Um, but I went to see it yesterday, and I just gonna get it out of the way. I think the movie is really, really good, and this the comment that I'm hearing is that I'm hearing a lot on Twitter is things like, um, "I can't believe we almost didn't get this." For those who don't know the backstory. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I think I should, because I feel like people, anybody who watches this video, they might, any Looney Tunes fans, they might start asking, well, what are your thoughts on the other Looney Tunes movies? I feel like people are going to ask that, so I'll just kind of briefly go through all the other ones. Um, of the compilation movies, I know there's Bugs Bunny Superstar, which is the one that was narrated by Orson Welles and presented by Bob Clampett. Um, and it's where it's him telling about the history of the Looney Tunes, and it's for 1970s, that was a new thing, learning about the backstory and how these cartoons were made and who made them. These were made throughout the 30s until the 60s, and there wasn't a lot of talk back then about who was making these, because back then, Warner Brothers didn't care enough to put these people in the spotlight, so they did Bugs Bunny Superstar, which was independently made, and it was made through United Artists. And I believe at the time they had access to cartoons made before 1948. So that cartoon features only cartoons before that period. Warner Brothers still had the post 1948 cartoons, um, that they could have control over. So none of those appear in the documentary, which I think is that one of that documentary's only main downfall is uh, it can only focus on that period of Looney Tunes, and and also because there's only so much time to show the cartoons themselves unedited, plus talk a little bit in between about what was going on behind the scenes. There's only so much time you can do that, so it is a very surface level documentary on the Looney Tunes. But at the time it came out, I know that it was a huge deal, and then later Warner Brothers decided they wanted to actually do their own, and so Chuck Jones, one of the other creators, did his own uh, compilation movie called the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie, which is more or less, it's Bugs Bunny himself talking about where the Looney Tunes came from, and then it's a compilation of a lot of probably all the ones that Chuck Jones considered the best of his work. I'm assuming that's the reason why he chose the cartoons that he did, even though some of the choices in there are no-brainers, like Duck Dodgers is in there, Duck Amuck is in there. And of course there's like a 10-minute section near the end. Sorry, where it's nothing but Roadrunner clips. And then they made some other compilation movies. Friz Freeling, one of the other creators, did one. And there's another one called Daffy Duck's Fantastic Island, which is very haphazard. It's like you have to watch it in order to see just how much of a misfire that one is, but it's still kind of entertaining. I mean, it still features uh, really good cartoons in there. And then there's also Quackbusters, which was made by Greg Ford and Terry Lennon, who also directed several Looney Tunes stuff in the 80s and 90s. And that's the one where Daffy Duck opens up like a ghost busting business, and it's a compilation of all the like the creepier themed Looney Tunes cartoons. Like Claws for Alarm is in there, and I'm trying to think. I think shoot, I'm now totally blanking on what other cartoons were in that one. But then sometime in the mid '90s, they decided let's do like an actual Looney Tunes feature, and so that led to Space Jam. And I know anybody who has seen Kaiser Beam's docu series on the Looney Tunes history, they he tells the backstory on that movie, and that's the one where the Looney Tunes are threatened to be captured by these aliens, and they want to compete in a basketball game for their lives, and the aliens take the talents of some basketball stars, and Looney Tunes are like, okay, we might need another basketball player to help us out, so they get Michael Jordan. And I loved that movie when I was a kid, but it is one of those movies where as you get older, you see like the cracks and the flaws in it. Even though I've rewatched it a couple times in as an adult, I think the movie is fine. It's serviceable, I think. Um, Chuck Jones infamously, complained about how it doesn't make sense that Bugs Bunny would need Michael Jordan's help. Bugs Bunny should be able to fend off these aliens themselves. Which, yeah, that's true. But I've heard other people try to make the defense of, well, then there wouldn't be a movie. So, um, I think one of my criticisms with Space Jam is I think that the first half hour takes a little too long to set up. There's a lot of back and forth between the Looney Tunes and the real world, and you're just waiting for them to collide, and it feels like it takes a while to get to the part where Bugs Bunny gets Michael Jordan into the Looney Tunes world. And then once that happens, the rest of the movie feels like it goes by a little too quickly. I think it's one of those things where as a kid, I don't think I felt that, but when I watch it as an adult, I'm like, this movie feels like it's moving way too fast. But then, like 6 or 7 years later, they did Looney Tunes Back in Action, which was directed by Joe Dante, who also did Gremlins. And that's the one where Daffy gets fired from Warner Brothers, and he goes off on an adventure with this security guard who's played by Brendan Fraser. And Brendan Fraser's character finds out that his father, who had been working as this actor who did a lot of spy movies, and then he finds out that he actually is a spy. So then the whole movie becomes like this weird spy adventure, and Bugs Bunny and this executive who's played by Jenna Elfman are just trying to tag along to get Daffy back. And then a bunch of other crazy stuff happens, and that movie did not do well in theaters because Warner Brothers released it during the Thanksgiving season, and there was a lot of competition there. It famously got beaten by the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat movie, which is one of those things that's still crazy to me. Like, people went to see that instead. Okay, whatever. Sorry again. People's opinions on Back in Action have always been kind of mixed. There's people who like it. There's people who think that the plot is too complicated, or that it's trying to do too much, which I can kind of see that. I can kind of see where they're going with that, but sometimes I think it's fine when a movie tries to go all out and just do whatever it can. And uh, Back in Action to me is one of those movies where every time I watch it, I notice some new jokes or some new details in the background. And I like movies that are like that. I like movies where no matter how many times you watch them, you'll notice some new stuff that you didn't see before. Like the Back to the Future trilogy is famous for that. And so to me, Back in Action did have a lot of rewatchability. There are some good jokes in there. There's some jokes in there that I'm surprised they got away with. Like the joke about Porky Pig and Speedy Gonzales are in the cafeteria and they're complaining that they can't get work because of political correctness. And this movie was made at a time when Warner Brothers had suppressed the Speedy Gonzales cartoons out of fear of offending um, the Latin American community, and the Latin American community said, "No, we're fans of Speedy Gonzales. We like his cartoons. You shouldn't be suppressing them." And there's also another joke in there about where Yosemite Sam is trying to get his sidekicks, who are Cottontail Smith and Nasty Canasta from two other Looney Tunes shorts. He's trying to get them to throw out a dynamite at the car that has all the main characters. It has Bugs, Daffy, and Brendan Fraser and Jenna Elfman, and his sidekicks are like, "Wait, innocent people could get hurt," and the other one goes, "It'll send the wrong message to children," which was poking fun at how Warner Brothers was cutting violent stuff out of the cartoons because they might send the wrong message to children. So there was a lot of like biting the hand humor in Back in Action, which I thought was really good. And again, it's one of those things where mean, even back then and even today, I'm kind of surprised that Warner Brothers allowed that. So yeah, Back in Action had I do feel it had more bite than Space Jam did. Space Jam, like I got sick of it at one point, whereas Back in Action, I could still watch that movie now and still enjoy it. There and everybody talk the one scene that everybody talks about is the scene where Elmer Fudd is chasing Bugs and Daffy through the museum in Paris, and they're going through all the different paintings, and they're taking on all the different styles, and that is a really fun sequence. And it came out recently that animator Mark Hausler did a lot of that, and he's worked on some other Looney Tunes projects prior, and I think he's also worked on some Disney stuff too. Um, After that, there wasn't a Looney Tunes movie for a long while, um, but um, then there's talk of a Space Jam sequel, and there's talk of a Space Jam sequel for years, and even there was always talk of LeBron James being the star of that, and ultimately he was, and the movie got made. I know a lot of people really, really did not like the Space Jam sequel. I didn't hate it personally. My feeling was this is what I said when in a Discord group I'm with, where we talk about animation and other types of movies. I would say that I think the first and second movie are about equal in terms of quality. Uh, I mean, the first movie, I mean, it's obviously it relies much more on hand drawn animation, and the sequel, there's only about 20 minutes of hand drawn animation, and for the rest of the movie, the characters are CGI. Um, but I actually do like the 20 minutes of hand drawn animation of the Looney Tunes, I think, more than the majority of Space Jam. And the reason why I like that is just because with Space Jam, I felt like it always felt to me like they were just using stock art of the Looney Tunes. Whereas in Space Jam 2, A New Legacy, that's the subtitle, it's not called Space Jam 2. Um, I think Spike Brandt and Dave Alvarez, they were allowed to kind of put like add their own style, their own look to the Looney Tunes, which is what the original creators did, you know, when the ones that were made by that were done in Chuck Jones's unit, the ones that were directed by him. The Bugs has a distinct look to him. In the ones directed by Friz Freleng, Bugs has a distinct look, and so on and so forth. And so and Back in Action did that too. Eric Goldberg was the director of animation for that, and he has a very distinct way of drawing the characters, and you see that in both Back in Action and the Space Jam sequel. It's like the characters, they look like the characters, but you can tell that there was an artist adding their own look, and it still looks really good. Whereas in the first Space Jam movie, it just looks like they pulled like whatever stock model sheets they were using and put basketball clothes on them. So it was, and I felt like in the 20 minutes they try to take advantage of the medium. Like there's like the whole sequence with Wonder Woman, and it's all comic book panels. Like it did more with the medium than what the first movie did. I've said before that to me the only thing about, well, okay, before I get to this, the other thing that I actually did like about the Space Jam sequel, and I think it's the only thing it did better than Back in Action, was that it had a more interesting villain. I've heard mixed feelings about Steve Martin as the villain, the ACME chairman in Back in Action. The main thing is that he's very over the top. He's very cartoonish. Um, I've heard some people say they thought that was fine. Others said he should have toned it down. I'm of the camp that felt they should have toned it down. Steve Martin is at his funniest when he's in a more of a straight man persona, and he's more of a smart aleck. You know, in movies like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or Bowfinger, he's better as a straight man character. But when he has to be like really boisterous and hammy, it doesn't work. And I heard that Tim Curry was one of the actors considered for that role. And I was thinking, and it's one of those things I just think they really should have went with Tim Curry, because I think Tim Curry is better at being hammy and over the top while still being like, he can still be like a threatening villain. So it's one of those, oh, they made the wrong casting choice. That sucks. Sorry again, I have allergies. I'm not sick. But in the Space Jam sequel, it's like this algorithm character, which is kind of an interesting idea. But it's stupid, but at the same time, it's kind of an interesting idea. And Don Cheadle plays the role, and Don Cheadle doesn't play villains very often, so this was a chance for him to be kind of smarmy. And he's not like over the top or hammy. He just acts like your typical villain, and he only gradually becomes more unhinged as the movie progresses, which I think is how villains should be done. And okay, well, yeah, what I was going to say, to me, the only thing that I think makes Space Jam: A New Legacy worse is the father-son angle it tries to do with LeBron James and his son. And it's kind of amazing that LeBron James was even okay with this, but he's depicted as a jerk. he's a jerk in this movie, and kind of a jerk to his son. And it's one of those, parent has to learn to not be a jerk to their kids. And there's a lot of movies out there that have had to done that. I mean, we had Pixar did that with Turning Red, which is a good movie. I liked that. And there's other movies. And it's, to me, it's just, I feel it's one of those Captain Obvious sort of things. Like, adults and parents shouldn't have to be told that. That should be a lesson they should already have. So I didn't, that to me is the only thing I didn't really like about the sequel. That's the only thing I can say is worse. I mean, Michael Jordan, I know people talk about that he seemed like he was too much of a straight man. but I'm like, no, that's fine because he's working with the Looney Tunes. The Looney Tunes are the ones who should be the ones doing the comedy. Um, but you actually see a scene of him where he's with his family and he's talking with his kids, and there's a scene in the movie where his son is upset that he did poorly in a baseball game, and Michael Jordan is like, there's a scene where he's like, yeah, it's not the end of the world, don't worry about it, which is cool. And I feel like if in the Space Jam sequel, if something like that with LeBron James happened with his son in the movie, LeBron James would have like put him down, and it's like, wow, this guy's an a-hole. But so yeah, that's the only thing I don't like about the Space Jam sequel. Uh, and then there was The Day the Earth Blew Up, which was originally intended to be something for HBO Max, and then foreshadowing, Warner Brothers was gonna not release it and write it off as a tax write off, which I don't know how you can do that legally, but whatever. I think there was a state representative. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. But a different distributor, Ketchup Entertainment, picked up the movie. They released it to theaters last year, and the thing that really stands out about this one, it was a fully hand-drawn, well, there's CGI effects, but for the most part, it was a fully hand-drawn animated movie, and it stars Daffy and Porky and sorry again, and Petunia Pig's in it, and the plot is that there's this alien that might be planning on destroying the Earth, and they try to stop it. I don't want to go too much into it because it's spoilers. But it was made by the same people that were doing the Looney Tunes cartoons that were being produced for HBO Max. Cameron, I'm blanking on his name. I hope I'm getting this right. Peter Braungart, I think is his name. I hope I didn't mess up his name. If you're watching this, apologies to you. I think Spike Brandt and Dave Alvarez were involved in this too, and it had Eric Bauza doing Daffy and Porky, and Candy Milo as Petunia, and it was actually it did something that it did two things that you don't see much in animated movies much now. It was a hand-drawn animated movie. It wasn't CGI. It used CGI only for effects, and it utilized professional voice actors. And there's only one or two celebrities in there. Like I know the alien is voiced by a celebrity. I'm blanking on his name, but he's the guy who gets possessed by the painting in Ghostbusters 2. And Wayne Knight, who was in the first Space Jam movie, he has a role in The Day the Earth Blew Up. I think he's a mayor or something like that. I forget. But that was a really good movie, and the art style it's trying to emulate Bob Clampett, who did probably the craziest Looney Tunes from the early to mid 40s before he left the studio. And his daughter, Ruth Clampett, who's an author, she has a small voiceover role in that. And for the most part, it does a really good job of basically making this seem like a feature-length Looney Tunes movie if it was directed by Bob Clampett. It, for the most part, I think it succeeds in that. And my only criticism, though, is some of the people who worked on Ren and Stimpy animated on this, and you can tell what scenes they worked on. And the Ren and Stimpy art style doesn't really gel well with Looney Tunes, in my opinion. But the moments where it's going more for a Bob Clampett look rather than a Ren and Stimpy look, that's when the movie is at its best. And the movie is also really funny. There are a lot of genuinely amusing moments. One quote that comes up a lot with this Discord group I'm in is do you know how hard it is for a male duck to lay an egg? Like that quote comes up frequently. Um, that came out last year. And then that brings us to Coyote versus Acme. That movie was supposed to come out in 2023. Um, and it's actually based on a parody article that I think was made for the New Yorker back in the early 90s. And then at some point, Warner Brothers just bought the rights to that and said, okay, we're going to make a movie out of this. And it was first announced a few years after Back in Action came out, but apparently it wasn't officially greenlit until 2018. And it was one of those movies where it's like off and on you would hear, oh yeah, it's in production, it's in the pipeline, and then you wouldn't hear anything. And so there was this assumption, well, did it get canceled? And then you would hear a little bit about it a little later, and then nothing. So there was a point where I feel like I think a lot of us Looney Tunes fans were like, did it get canceled? Is it done? Okay, whatever. Well, that sucks. But then it was announced that Warner Brothers, because this was during the period where they were deciding to not release certain movies or animated films and just write them off as a tax write-off. It happened to the Batgirl movie, which I still want to see. It happened to a CGI animated Scooby-Doo movie. And then it happened to this one. They announced, we're not going to release this. We're going to just write it off as a tax write-off. And that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. That's when not just Looney Tunes fans, but moviegoers and other filmmakers were saying, this is not right. You know, we make movies because we want people to see them. You know, it's sometimes it's not about, well, will this make money or not? It's no, we just want people to see this movie. We want to see the writing that we did, the artwork that we did, you know, the actors, they want people to see their performances. And there were even filmmakers who were canceling meetings with Warner Brothers because they thought, okay, I'm not going to go through the trouble of pitching a movie to them, have the movie get made, and then Warner Brothers decide, no, we're going to not release it. We're just going to write it off as tax write-off. And that actually, if I'm remembering right, that actually caused Warner Brothers stock to go down a little bit. And there was a state representative who actually said on Twitter, Warner Brothers needs to be investigated because this sounds like tax fraud. And I even said this in a TikTok video back when this was going on. This feels like tax fraud. And the theory that I've always had is that made Warner Brothers shit their pants a little. Like, oh, okay, not only do we have Hollywood against us, we may end up getting investigated. So they sold the movie to Ketchup Entertainment, who also did The Day the Earth Blew Up, who also picked up The Day the Earth Blew Up. And yesterday, like I said, yesterday was the screening, an early screening for it. And now that I've done all the backstory, what do I think of the movie? It's really, really good. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm not going to say any spoilers or anything like that. I just want to say that I'll say the main plot. It's Wile E. Coyote realizes that his failures in catching the Roadrunner are because of the faultiness of the Acme products that he uses. And so he goes to a lawyer who's named Kevin Avery, named after Tex Avery, one of the creators, and he's played by Will Forte. And the Coyote basically convinces him to help him take on Acme. And Acme has a lawyer, this head lawyer, who's played by John Cena, and he's the antagonist. And basically his job to make sure that this lawsuit doesn't go through. And this, I feel like this is kind of a spoiler. There's actually a heavy conspiracy going on in the Acme Corporation, and this lawsuit could bring that conspiracy to light. I won't say anything more about that, but that does create a huge conflict, in the movie, and it's one where it's like, okay, like the Acme Corporation, they're actually made to be actual bad guys here. Um, and what I think one of the things about the movie is, I think with I don't think this was really an issue with well, it kind of was, where it did sometimes seem like there was like Michael Jordan was more the focus. You know, I mean, the movie opens with him, it ends with him, um, and Looney Tunes back in action. Sometimes there's too much focus on Brendan Fraser and Jenna Elfman's characters, and it seems like Bugs and Daffy are like they're they're sidelined a little bit. I mean, there's still some good sequences involving them, but it does seem like they are kind of pushed to the side at points in favor of these human characters. Um, and for this movie, Coyote versus Acme, um, a couple years ago, this was before Warner Brothers sold the film to a distributor. Uh, the plot outline actually had leaked, and I tried to avoid reading as much of it as I could, but I remember being concerned that this would repeat the same flaw as putting too much focus on the humans and not enough on the Looney Tunes, especially with Wile E. Coyote, since he's supposed to be the main Looney Tunes character in this. Um, I would say in this movie, I mean, there are some scenes where the main humans are the main focus, but there's something about it that I feel like the Looney Tunes are still the spotlight. I think, I think, I'm not sure if this is like a real explanation. It's the only thing I can think of. But in Back in Action, Bugs and Daffy's storyline really has nothing to do with Brendan Fraser's. Like, because Brendan Fraser is like off to like rescue his father, who's being held captive somewhere. Daffy just wants to go on this treasure hunt thing, and Bugs is trying to, get him back. But it's like their storylines don't really have anything to do with one another. And so I think there is that kind of disconnect. Whereas this one, Wile E. Coyote story and the humans, their storylines are the same. It doesn't feel like when it goes to the humans, when there's a little bit of focus on them, it still feels like it has something to do with the Looney Tunes. And I think that actually helps make it work. But I'm so sorry for the coughing. It's like there's just a few moments where it feels like it's focusing on the humans, but the Looney Tunes still come back in very quickly. Um, and the only other one other thing I only want to say is the animation itself. There is some hand drawn animation in here. In fact, there's a couple characters where I think they're completely hand drawn animated. Like their whole screen time is hand drawn animation. Wile E. Coyote, for the most part, I believe it's cell shaded animation, which is CGI animation, but it's made to look kind of hand drawn, but it moves in a kind of CGI way. It was also used in the Tom and Jerry movie, the one that had Chloe Grace Moretz in it. That kind of animation. The animation here in that style of animation, it's very hit or miss to me. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it really doesn't look good. Mainly in wide shots. when the character is like they're positioned far enough away from the camera, the animation looks okay, but then there's sometimes during close-ups where it looks kind of janky. It's like this looks so much like an NPC character from like a video game. Like I don't want to say like a video game like an insult, like it looks bad, because animation and graphics in video games have evolved really well like the past few decades. And especially when you look at something like the Zelda Breath of the Wild games, like everything looks great in that. But take that and put that in a movie that's supposed to be released to theaters, and then it's kind of like, that does it doesn't look that great. But there are parts where it does look good, and there are parts where there is hand drawn animation. Anytime it goes to hand drawn animation, it looks really really well. And there's even a character in here. Okay, I'm uh, this probably isn't a spoiler. I was gonna say there's a specific character in here where it's like they knew that this character needs to be hand drawn in order to look really good. But I think it should be obvious that it's Bugs Bunny. When Bugs Bunny shows up, it's all hand drawn animation. I don't think there's any cell shaded animation there. It's like the filmmakers knew this character needs to look the best he can, so he's hand drawn animated throughout his whole screen time, and that was a good choice. But there are instances where some of the other cell shaded characters, it is hand drawn animation, but it's only for like quick shots or moments where they need the character to move super quickly, or in a very cartoonish way. But I think mostly like if a character is just sitting down or if they're just walking, I think it's just cell shaded animation. And like I said, sometimes it looks good, sometimes it looks janky, and I do hope that there are more Looney Tunes movies greenlit. I would love to see more. I mean, I don't want to see too many. Like, if this was like a once in a great while thing, that's fine. But one concern that I do have is that I don't want Warner Brothers to rely on cell shaded animation too much going forward. I think hand drawn animation is the better route. Like, if you want the characters to look the way they did in the original cartoons, go hand drawn animation, especially because we don't see much of it at all in movies these days, at least not mainstream movies. I would say only use cell shaded animation if you absolutely have to, and only use it for certain shots. Wide shots or far away shots, yes. If you want to use cell shaded animation for that, good. But I think for things like close ups or moments where a character has to do a lot or they have to be on screen for a certain period of time, hand drawn. Just make it hand drawn. That's what I hope we get if there's for any future Looney Tunes movies. I mean, I know they probably might want to do CGI, which if they go the CGI route and then they want to do like what they did with Space Jam: A New Legacy, I mean, it looked fine, but I'm always going to prefer hand drawn animation. But I mean, I guess if you want to do CGI animation, then yeah, I guess go do with what you did with the Space Jam sequel. But as for cell shaded animation, only use it for certain shots. Don't use it as a crutch going forward. What else do I want to say about this? The movie. Okay, yeah. The movie itself really funny. There's a lot of moments I found myself laughing. There's a lot of gags where there's even a lot of gags where and jokes where I found myself going, I can't believe they got away with that. It's like I feel like in this day and age where I think too many people, like too many of the suits at Warner Brothers, who view Looney Tunes as just something for little kids. And there's a lot of people, a lot of audiences out there who probably view Looney Tunes just as little, just being for little kids. And the original creators have said that making these for kids was never their goal. They made them for themselves, really. And anytime you can get jokes that definitely feel like they were more for the adults in the audience and not for the kids, that I consider that that is like a step in the right direction. Now, I'm not saying go like put some PG-13 jokes in there or R-rated jokes or like sexual jokes or anything like that. I don't mean that. I mean like for example, again, I'm trying not to do spoilers or anything like that. There's there's okay there's a glue joke in this movie. That's one joke I'll spoil. There's a glue joke in here where someone is like they're involuntarily huffing glue. I don't want to give the full context because that's a spoiler, but this person does that. This character gets high from this glue, and it's only because they were involuntarily huffing it. They kind of had no choice but to breathe it in. But it was just like, okay, I'm surprised that joke got in. Jokes like that, little jokes like that, are what I'm talking about. And not, and in terms, aside from you know comedic moments, there are moments in this movie that are meant to be more serious, and uh, which this is actually a criticism I had with a lot of comedy movies. It's a problem I had with the Pink Panther movies with Steve Martin, and the Get Smart movie with Steve Carell, and the Ghostbusters 2016 movie, is them trying to put like heartwarming moments in there, and it doesn't work. Um, Mainly because the original movies and shows did not do that. But with Looney Tunes, that was something that they could do. It wasn't just anvils falling on people's heads or people blowing up. There are cartoons with heartwarming moments, like the Chuck Jones cartoon Feed the Kitty, or another Chuck Jones cartoon Lost and Foundling, where sometimes they don't go for the laugh, sometimes they go for other emotions. And so for a Looney Tunes movie to do that, I think that's okay because the originals did that too. So it's not out of place here, and it works really well. So this isn't just like some laugh fest. There are moments that can make you feel other things, other emotions, not just, oh, haha, that was really funny. There's moments that can make you go, oh, this is actually kind of a gut wrenching moment. Wow, this is in a Looney Tunes movie. That's crazy. And I think a few of the other Looney Tunes movies tried to do that, but didn't fully commit to it. Like Back in Action has the scene where Daffy Duck actually tells Bugs, I would like to be in the spotlight more. It all the attention is always on you. People love you. I don't have that. And it's only a very brief scene, and then after that it's never really mentioned again, except at the end when Bugs tells Daffy, hey, yeah, I'm going to talk with the bosses. We'll do more for you. And I remember somebody on TV Tropes actually saying that they did put out some Daffy focused stuff afterwards. Like there was the Duck Dodgers series, and Daffy is almost like the center character in the Looney Tunes show that was made in the 2010s. So it's like it does seem like there was a push for Daffy to be more in the spotlight other than Bugs. And but like I said, it's a moment that's meant to be serious, but they don't fully commit to it because it's only one brief scene and then it just goes on to the movie for the rest of it. And The Day the Earth Blew Up has the scene where Daffy and Porky have a brief falling out. But again, I think it's one of those things that they don't fully commit to it. You know, there's still laughs thrown in there. Coyote versus Acme, I think, is the first one where they go, okay, we have some conflicts here, or we can do something serious here, we can do something heartfelt here, and they fully commit to it. There's not like these cop outs or anything. They go 100% all the way. Um, and I think that that's cool. That's cool that they did that. That's great progression from the previous movies. Uh, do I now? The question is, and I've heard people on Twitter saying this is the best Looney Tunes movie. Is this the best? Now my opinion is this: do I think this is the best Looney Tunes movie? Um, I want to say. Let me just say this. Okay, first of all, I really liked The Day the Earth Blew Up because of it being fully animated. It was a fully hand-drawn animated movie. I loved that, and it was entertaining. It was funny, um, and I also liked Back in Action. Like I said, I liked that too. Um, I think that at least compared to Back in Action, Coyote versus Acme has a better plot, better writing, better jokes. Well, I don't know about better. Yeah, maybe it's a combination of it having better jokes and more jokes than Back in Action did. Back in Action still has like a lot of funny jokes, but I would say Coyote versus Acme is more joke driven. Like it's joke, while still leaving moments of you know breathing room. It's not like a Zucker Brothers movie where it's wall to wall jokes from start to finish. There's moments where it takes a break and it still feels natural. And then when the jokes start coming, they don't let up, only stopping when they need to. Back in Action does have a little bit of an inconsistency there where sometimes there's jokes there and sometimes it's like there's attempt at jokes, but they don't land. Um, and then there's moments where it's focused on the humans, and you're like, no, I want to go back to the Looney Tunes. And Coyote, like I said, Coyote versus Acme. There's moments where it's focusing on the human characters, and I didn't find myself going, I want to go back to the Looney Tunes. And I think it's because the humans, their roles are connected with the goal of Wile E. Coyote. So it's whenever it's focused on the humans, it's still tied to the plot concerning one of the Looney Tunes characters. So I think it still works. Um, what else do I want to say about this? Okay. Oh yeah. Is this the best Looney Tunes movie? Um, I think I would still give the edge to The Day the Earth Blew Up. But like I said, Coyote versus Acme, its story and writing is better than Back in Action. I think it's better than the Space Jam sequel. It's better than the first Space Jam movie. So I guess to me, The Day the Earth Blew Up, I would put first. And Coyote versus Acme, maybe I would put it second place. But I will say this: the only thing that really kills it for me is the cel shaded animation. If they had done hand drawn animation for the characters throughout the whole movie, then I would have given this a full 10 out of 10. um, the 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 cell shaded animation being kind of inconsistent and janky at times, I think it does bring it down to a 9 out of 10. But like I said, that's still a really good rating. I would think I would give The Day the Earth Blew Up a 10 out of 10. Um, and Back in Action, 8 out of 10. And um, the Space Jam movies are kind of, I would say, in the 6 out of 10 area. They're both in that kind of range. Uh, but yeah, this is overall a great movie, and I cannot believe I've been talking about this for almost an hour. I actually need to go to work. But uh, yeah, if you haven't seen it, if you didn't see the early screening, it's gonna get its wide release on the 28th. So check your local listings. Yes, go see this movie. If you're a Looney Tunes fan, definitely go see it. Even if you're not a Looney Tunes fan, I think you would still get a lot of enjoyment out of this movie. It's a lot of fun. Um, Highly recommend it. I don't really have much else to say uh, other than uh, yeah, that's all I have to say. Yeah, just I recommend the movie. Go see it, and I hope everybody who watched this has a really great day. And I'll see you in the next video that I'm trying to make. I'm currently working on an Angry Beavers related video. I even have like an Angry Beaver shirt on. And everyone have a good, fun, and safe day. And I will see you in the next video. And man, I suck at mirroring. Tom Servo says hi. uh, so see you later.